I remember that night as clearly as if it's still happening. The hum of fluorescent lights, the faint smell of rain-soaked asphalt, and the soft clatter of dishes from behind the counter. It was just past 11 at Maple and Main Diner, a small 24-hour spot tucked between a laundromat and a gas station. I'd been sitting in my usual booth, halfway through a lukewarm cup of coffee, when the bell over the door jingled, and she turned, smiling. "Look who finally decided to show up," she teased, voice warm but tired. The cop standing in the doorway gave her that slow grin, the kind that hides more stories than words ever could. "You always come late," she added, crossing her arms playfully. He paused, shaking the rain from his jacket before saying quietly, "Not tonight." Something in his tone made me look up from my cup. It wasn't the words, it was the way he said them. Like there was something final buried underneath. Her name was Lena, and she'd been working at that diner for years. Always with that same messy ponytail, same tired eyes, same patience for the world's broken souls. And him, Officer Daniel Rourke, came in almost every night, same time, same seat. Never stayed long. Just coffee, sometimes pie, always alone. But that night, something was different. He didn't sit at his usual booth by the window. He walked straight to the counter and took the stool nearest her, where the light fell soft and warm, casting a faint glow on his rain-drenched uniform. She slid a cup toward him. "Rough night?" He hesitated before answering. "You could say that. I don't know why I kept watching. Maybe because I'd been coming to that diner long enough to notice when the air changed. And that night, it did." Lena leaned against the counter, elbows on the cold steel. "You look like you've seen a ghost." He smiled faintly, eyes distant. "Maybe I have." The rain outside thickened, a low rumble of thunder echoing somewhere beyond the city streets. For a while, neither spoke. She refilled his cup. He stirred it absently. 1, 2, 3 times, then finally whispered, "There was a call tonight." Lena frowned. "Another accident?" He shook his head. "Domestic. A kid called. Said his mom was screaming." He paused, jaw tightening. "When I got there, it was already too late." The sound of the coffee machine filled the silence. She didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. He rubbed his temples, exhaling slow. "You ever feel like you're always a few minutes too late to everything that matters?" Lena looked down, wiping a clean spot on the counter that didn't need wiping. "Every day." That was the first time I saw her break her usual calm. For just a moment her mask slipped, and you could see the tiredness underneath. The kind that doesn't come from work, but from life itself. He looked at her then, really looked, and something shifted between them. The noise of the diner, the rain, even the neon sign outside seemed to fade into the background. "You should go home," she said softly. "You've done enough for one night." He shook his head. "Can't sleep anyway?" "Because of what happened?" "Because of everything," he murmured. "You start to forget the good nights after a while." She smiled sadly. "Then stay a little longer. Maybe this will count as one." He chuckled under his breath. "You always say the right thing, Lena." She shrugged. "It's part of the job, but I could tell. It wasn't. Not with him." She poured herself a cup too, and for a moment they sat there side by side, the two of them framed by the soft glow of the neon open sign flickering through the rain. "I heard something," he said suddenly. "When I got back in the car, dispatch said they're investigating another case, near the old rail yard." Lena froze. "Rail yard?" He nodded. "Yeah, why?" Her eyes flicked to the clock, then back to him. "That's where my sister used to live." Before she went missing, the words hung in the air, fragile, raw. His face changed. "You never told me you had a sister." She swallowed hard. "It's not something I like to talk about." He leaned in slightly. "When did she disappear?" 3 years ago, she whispered. "Walked out one night and never came back. They said she might have run away, but..." Her voice trembled. "I never believed that." Daniel's eyes softened. "What was her name?" "Eva," he blinked slowly. I saw the moment realization flickered in his expression, the kind that chills you before it speaks. "I've seen that name," he said quietly. "It came up in an old missing persons file." "I thought it was closed." Lena's breath caught. "It's not closed for me." The air felt heavier, charged with something unseen. Rain lashed against the windows like restless hands. He reached across the counter, his fingers brushing hers. Hesitant, human. Then maybe it shouldn't be. She stared at him, eyes wide. What do you mean? I mean I can reopen it, he said. I shouldn't. But I can. I just need to know if you're ready to face whatever we find. For the first time that night, she didn't speak. Just looked at him. The kind of look that holds a lifetime of fear and hope tangled together. Finally, she whispered, You think you can handle it? He gave that half smile again, weary but sure. I can handle big things, Lena. It's the quiet ones that scare me. The clock ticked. The rain slowed. Somewhere outside, the sound of sirens faded into the night. Lena looked down at their hands, still barely touching, and whispered, Then maybe we both need to stop running from the quiet. He nodded. Starting tonight. When he stood to leave, she caught his sleeve gently. Be careful. He looked at her, eyes soft but unreadable. Not tonight, Lena, he whispered again, and I swear the way he said it this time sent a shiver through the room. She watched him walk out into the rain, not rushing, not hesitating, just moving like a man who finally knew where to go. When the door closed behind him, she stayed still for a long time, staring at the spot where he'd been, and though she didn't know it yet, something had already changed, for both of them. If you've ever waited for someone who showed up at the right moment, even once, subscribe to Tale Story House, because sometimes the smallest meetings change everything. I saw her smile soften as he took a seat, his jacket still damp from the night air. The clock above the counter ticked closer to 2 a.m., but in that little diner, time had stopped, suspended between the hum of fluorescent lights and the faint sizzle of oil from the kitchen. Rough night? She asked, pouring him a cup of coffee. Her voice had lost the teasing edge. Now it was gentle, cautious. He took a slow sip, staring at the steam as if searching for something inside it. You could say that, he murmured. Lost someone tonight. Her hands froze around the coffee pot. A friend? He nodded, jaw tightening. A rookie. First year on the job. We got caught in a chase. He didn't make it. The words dropped between them like glass. Fragile, sharp, impossible to clean up. The waitress looked down, her lashes trembling. I could see the way her chest rose slowly, like she was absorbing his grief and trying not to break under it. I'm sorry, she whispered. He nodded once, his eyes glinting under the dim light. You start to think you're used to it. The noise, the loss, the paperwork that follows death like a shadow. But then you realize you're not. She reached out without thinking, her hand brushing the back of his. The contact was fleeting but electric. He didn't pull away. I wait here every night, she said softly. Watch people come and go. Some smile, some don't. But you... She paused, studying his tired face. You look like you've seen too much. He chuckled weakly. I have. But it's what I signed up for. Then quieter. Sometimes I just wish someone would tell me it's okay to stop pretending I'm fine. The diner felt heavy then. Even the jukebox seemed to go silent out of respect for that kind of confession. She sat down across from him, breaking every rule of her job. Her apron was slightly stained, hair coming undone from the long shift. You don't have to pretend here, she said. Not with me. He looked up and for the first time I saw something shift in him. The hardened lines around his eyes softened. He breathed, really breathed, as though the act itself was a luxury he'd forgotten. They didn't speak for a while. Just sat there, two souls anchoring each other in the middle of a city that never stopped spinning. Finally, she smiled faintly. You know, I used to think cops were all the same. Stoic, cold, always running late for something or someone. He smirked faintly, that small familiar spark returning. And now? Now, she said, looking right at him, I think some of you are just lost. He didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a folded napkin. I wrote something down earlier, he said. Before I came in, she hesitated before taking it. When she unfolded it, her eyes moved slowly over the words. Not tonight. She looked up at him. That's what you whispered when you came in. He nodded. Because I didn't want to be late this time. Not for this, her breath hitched. For what? He leaned closer, voice barely a murmur. For someone who makes me forget the noise outside. I felt a lump form in my throat watching that moment. It wasn't grand. It wasn't cinematic. But it was real. Two people quietly rescuing each other in a world too loud to care. Outside, a siren wailed distantly, echoing through the streets. He flinched instinctively, but she reached over and rested her hand on his arm again. "Stay," she said simply. He did. The rain continued outside, tracing long streaks down the window glass like tears neither of them had to shed tonight. For the next hour, they just sat together. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't, but each silence carried its own kind of healing. "I should go," he finally said, rising reluctantly. "Morning shift starts in 3 hours." She smiled, standing too. "Then come back tomorrow. I'll save your seat." He gave her that half smile again, the kind that hides more than it reveals. "You always do." Before stepping out, he paused by the door, glancing back at her. The neon light caught his eyes, turning them soft and golden. "You know," he said quietly, "you were right earlier." "I was lost. And now?" she asked. He smiled. "Now I think I found something worth coming early for." The bell jingled softly as he stepped into the misty dawn. She stood there a long moment, watching until the city swallowed him whole. When she turned back, there was a faint glow on her face. Not from the lights, but from something deeper. Hope, maybe, or the echo of something she wasn't ready to name. I finished my coffee slowly, still watching her. She wiped the counter absent-mindedly, humming a tune I couldn't place. But in her eyes I saw it, the spark that comes from being seen after years of invisibility. Some stories don't end with grand gestures or confessions. Some end quietly, over coffee at 2 a.m., in a small diner where two broken people teach each other how to breathe again. That night, as I stepped outside into the cold, I heard her voice through the door, soft, almost laughing. "Not tonight," she whispered again, and for reasons I couldn't explain, I smiled. Because somehow I knew both of them were going to be okay. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Tale Story House, where every story reminds us that even late hearts can still arrive on time.